On October 11th, walk to save a life in memory of Ashby Ward. We'll show you how you can help. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the House of Blues, the location for last Wednesday's kickoff luncheon for the 12th annual Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward. And we're visiting with Graham Edwards, the chairman of the board of Santee Cooper and the co-chair of this year's Heart Walk. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning to you.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Incredible opportunity to highlight the amazing kickoff luncheon last Wednesday, a huge turnout, and to highlight your valiant efforts to run from Columbia down here to be there to help kick off the luncheon.
No, it was a wonderful event, and what's so neat is to see the community come together for a very special cause this year in memory of Ashby. And what a great individual he was. And this is just a wonderful opportunity for us, the community, to show their support and fondness of Ashby, and to really do something good for the community, good to help educate the community, do something for heart disease, the #1 killer in this country.
The #1 killer, not only in the country, incredibly so in the PD. I think we're recognized one of the stroke belts of the capital, but both fighting heart disease and strokes. A huge commitment the Heart Association sets out to do every day.
It really is. And Greg, if I can, it's amazing. I didn't realize this statistic, but in South Carolina, on the average, every day, 35 people die of heart-related disease. Not a year, but 35 every day in South Carolina. So it is the #1 killer. It's the #1 killer here in Horry and Georgetown counties and throughout the state of South Carolina.
Graham, the other exciting thing, of course, was last week, knowing we were originally going to be in one room and the crowd was so large, folks getting out to support the Heart Association, that they had to move us upstairs to the Indigo Room, an amazing facility, and they really went all out. The House of Blues went all out.
Oh, I cannot commend them enough, and we appreciate very much their efforts. And they've always been a supporter of the American Heart Association, and it really was a great turnout. The team leaders were there, and the whole purpose of this is to raise money, of course, but also it is to get companies involved, community involved, church involved, individuals involved, and there are many ways that people can get involved in this Heart Walk and make it the best Heart Walk ever.
I got to say, a little kudos to Susan Mungo, who was in yesterday with Brad Dean. Incredible to think of the Santee Cooper team. They've already well exceeded their goal, the $7,000 goal. I think they've got 7 teams spread out, and she, as a recruitment leader, just went all out.
They've done a wonderful job, and I appreciate all their efforts, and they're going to continue. They're not stopping, and they still got a little over a month left, and so they're going to continue to be raising money. And the neat part of this, Greg, is that those 7 teams are competing against each other.
Right.
So there's a little intra-company competition there, which is great.
Very definitely. Always the way to do it. Graham, about yourself, are you originally from the area?
I grew up in Sherrill, South Carolina, down the PD area, and grew up there and was there all my life, and went to school at Francis Marion University and graduated there, and then ended up down in Charleston at the Citadel and received an MBA. And in fact, interviewed with Santee Cooper on campus at the Citadel, and that's where I spent my entire career.
Is that right? Your entire career at the same company?
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great organization, and I was just pleased to be a small part of it.
Do you still have family in the area, Graham?
I do. My mom and dad and my in-laws and nephews are still in Sherrill, and I have a brother in Charleston. So we're all still within the state of South Carolina.
You also have a daughter who's working now with Santee Cooper.
She is, and she's been with them for, I guess, about 14, 16 months now, and she heads up their Green Power Program for them, which is the environmentally sensitive renewable resource at the landfill, the methane gas landfill project that is a partnership between Santee Cooper and the Solid Waste Authority here in Horry County.
Okay. How long have you held have you held the position as chairman of the board of Santee Cooper?
I was confirmed the middle of April. I think it was April 17th as chairman. So relatively new, about 4 months or so. But what's the need for me is that I'm kind of going back home and to renew some relationships and make new ones. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Let's share for the viewers real quick a little bit about your tenure there. Over the 20-plus years you've been associated with Santee Cooper, how has the utility industry changed, And how has Santee Cooper as a company changed?
Sure. Well, I think that Santee Cooper first. Let me answer the second part first. Santee Cooper has changed in that 25 years ago it was a very small utility company, was not growing. That changed with some changes in management, some new blood coming in, and then all of a sudden we started becoming really an economic development engine for the state. We recruited Alumax of South Carolina. Of course, Georgetown Steel was being served by Santee Cooper. Nucor was recruited by Santee Cooper. So the economic development part of Santee Cooper started to blossom. We continued to grow. The rural parts of the state started to grow, which is where we serve primarily through the electric cooperatives. And the biggest change we have seen is through the growth of the Grand Strand area and really throughout the state of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. When we think about, of course, so many of our viewers in the PD or in southeastern North Carolina think of cooperatives. They PD Electric Co-op or so many cooperatives, Ori Electric Co-op. How does Santee Cooper interface with the electric co-ops, Graham?
Sure. We are the electric cooperatives in South Carolina. We're their complete power supplier. We have a long-term contract with them, and they receive virtually all their power supply from us. And it really is a partnership. We generate the power and transmit it to those 20 electric cooperatives throughout the state. And they're located in all 46 counties within the state of South Carolina. And then they take the power and distribute it to the end user, the residential, small commercial consumers.
So Santee Cooper has a huge impact, obviously, on those.
It has a huge impact, and as the cooperatives grow, then we continue to grow.
Graham, let's share real quick how the recent power failure in the Northeast impacted both that area. Did it have any impact on our area?
Believe it or not, we in the upper part of the state, we have the rain generating station in Anderson, and we saw the impact there. We had a jolt on the system. It was contained, it was isolated, and we recovered very quickly. But we were virtually no impact. However, the Northeast and the Midwest was impacted dramatically, and there was a lot of people without power for a good while. And that just shows, in my opinion anyway, that the transmission grid, the big lines that carry the power, it's important that we continue to build those lines and maintain them and upgrade them, because if not, then we're not going to be able to supply the power that we need.
What is your greatest concern for the electric utility industry going forward?
I think 3 years ago I would have said deregulation, but California and Enron did as much to stop deregulation as they did to start deregulation. So that is really on the back burner. I guess there are environmental concerns that we have and what's going to be done at the federal level because we are a coal-burning utility, and we've got to make sure that we balance the quality and the quantity of our life and do the right environmental thing going forward. But environmental legislation, energy legislation through Congress, that's always something that you wake up and say, now what's really going to happen?
Graham, why do you think electric utilities are often taken for granted?
I think we as a society take them for granted because, when you pick up the telephone and you make a long distance phone call and you get a busy signal, no big deal, all right? But if you walk in your home and you turn the light switch on and the lights don't come on, you get upset, right? Or if you go to a grocery store or to a bank, you expect to stand in line. But you go home, you expect immediate service. And really, I think that we have started to take it for granted a little bit in this country. And I think the recent blackout in the middle of August really did show how important a part of the economic infrastructure electricity really is.
Graham, obviously the big focus is the Heart Walk. And to think about the commitment both of focusing in memory of Ashby Ward as well as fighting heart disease and stroke, what do you think prompted you to assume the role of co-chair for this year's event?
Well, it is the #1 killer, and also there's heart-related disease in my family. I had the honor and the opportunity to co-chair the event in the PD region several years ago, and we were very successful. So I've had a history with the American Heart Association. It's a wonderful organization. They do the right things. The money stays in the community. They do research. They do education. And it's an outstanding organization and for an outstanding cause. And I would encourage everyone to get involved.
The year you chaired it with Fred Carter there at Francis Marion was a big year for the PD area. Do you remember about how much they raised?
Yeah, I want to say it was around $250,000. And I understand their goal this year is right at $300,000.
Oh my God!
And Greg, I got to say that our goal here along the Grandstand area is a very modest $115,000. And based on what Doug Wendell and Susan Cohen of Burris and Chapin have done through solicitation of sponsorships in support of the walk, and they've done a wonderful job. I think we're going to surpass that goal substantially. I hope so anyway.
Getting the walkers out is so important to get folks to put teams together to actually, it's that great domino effect.
It really is. It's not so much the sponsorships, while that's an important part of it. Most of your money is raised and funds come through the walkers. And we want teams to go out and get, 10 people per team, and each person raises $100. That's $1,000. And the more teams we can get, then the bigger impact we can have.
Graham, when did you first meet Ashby Ward, and what was it about him that impressed you the most?
I remember the name Ashby Ward for many years growing up in Sherrall and seeing him on television when he was in Florence before coming to Myrtle Beach. And I guess the first time I met him on a personal basis was when he was at the Chamber of Myrtle Beach, and it was a business-related activities. But he just had a presence about him. And it's one of those things that when Ashby spoke, people listened to him. And he really was a leader and a visionary for the Grand Strand area. And in my opinion, this part of South Carolina would not be where it is today without Ashby Ward.
Graham, can you share with the viewers real quick some of the things you've been doing in your role as co-chair of this year's walk?
Sure. First of all, Brad, who you had on the show as well, what a super individual, and does a wonderful job with the Chamber. And Brad Dean and I are co-chairing the event. But we are, number one, trying to get the word out. We're doing shows like this. We are having meetings with companies, with individuals, and basically just trying to get the word out to solicit volunteers, to head up the committees, to solicit team leaders and get companies involved. So we're kind of like the cheerleaders, and we're out there trying to get people involved. But really, the individual teams and the leaders and the walkers, they're the ones that make it happen.
And the biggest message you're trying to convey at civic groups or on the radio or TV is just to get folks out.
Get involved, get out. October 11th will be a great day. There's something there for everybody. It's not just a walk. There are activities for young and old, men and women. So please, we want everyone to come out, get involved. We hope to have around 2,000 walkers as we start at the pavilion at 10 o'clock on October 11th.
We think about so many, and let's go back to Santee Cooper for a second. We think about so many of the folks at Santee Cooper, and I think a couple names just pop straight to my mind. Jill Watts, who's general chairwoman of the United Way. Jack Monroe, my Lord, a man who's committed so much. He and his wife together have committed so much to fighting heart disease and stroke. 20-plus years heading up the Heart Association's Ride-a-thon. Is there something about working at Santee Cooper that has given that commitment to really get out and serve the community?
Well, first of all, I could not be more pleased with the employees at Santee Cooper. Number one, they're wonderful employees and workers within the organization, but also they have the community spirit. They give back, and the organization really is like a big family. And I think that's where the giving comes from, is that culture that it really is a big family, and they care about each other and care about giving back to the community in which they live and work. So I'm proud of them.
When you think about other companies, why would a company wish to be involved in the Heart Walk and support the Heart Association? How does a company benefit, Graham?
Well, first of all, it's the right thing to do from the standpoint of fighting heart disease and helping to cure that disease, or at least make people aware of it and how they can change their lifestyles through research and education. But secondly, it's a great marketing opportunity for companies to be sponsors, to get their name out there, to say we are a good corporate citizen, because most companies are great corporate citizens. And to me, that's the value. Business value is marketing, but really the real value is giving back to the community to make a difference.
When you think about giving back, Graham, you think about, golly, for almost 10 years you served as the chief executive officer for incredible for Santee Cooper, then going in as a consultant and helping out so many other groups around the country, really making an impact in their communities. Now, getting back to give back. Over the last 12 months, have there been any accomplishment in particular of which you're probably most proud?
Well, I think that what I feel best about is becoming re-engaged in the community in which I was so close to for so many years, and being back in Horry and Georgetown counties, and also in Berkeley County where I have a home, and just being reacquainted with the employees of Santee Cooper, the community. Because let me tell you something, Greg, it's a great place to live and to raise a family, and it's just a community-minded area, and just wonderful.
He loves being back. Graham Edwards, the co-chair of this year's Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward, and the chairman of the board of Santee Cooper. It's great to be back, and we're happy to have him back. Graham, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Greg.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to Marilyn Chewning coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at the House of Blues, the location for last Wednesday's kickoff luncheon for the 12th annual American Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward. And we're visiting with Marilyn Chewning, the Vice President for Community Programs and Events at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Marilyn.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Incredible opportunity to highlight some of the amazing activities that happened last Wednesday when we were here just a week ago today, kicking off having the big kickoff luncheon just 5 weeks before the amazing day, October 11th, where we'll all be out at the Myrtle Beach Pavilion.
I know it's really exciting, and I think everyone's really gotten behind this fundraiser, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Marilyn, real quick about yourself. Were you originally from the area?
No, I grew up in Ohio, and then I moved to Florida, and that's where I met my husband, and then he was from South Carolina, and we moved back to South Carolina. So I've been in Myrtle Beach since 1959.
59?
Yes.
And what was it in leaving Florida that attracted you and your husband to the area?
Well, he wanted to come back to South Carolina because he was from here, and he went to work for ABX.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Marilyn, how long have you been with the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, and what were you doing prior to joining?
Well, in Florida, I worked at a law firm. And then when we moved here, I wanted something part-time to do, and the lady from High Newcomers came to visit and said they were looking for some part-time people at the chamber. So I went down and worked part-time for 2 years, and then Mr. Brinkman, Fred Brinkman was CEO at the time, he decided to departmentalize the chamber, and I applied for one of the department jobs and got it and been there ever since.
That's amazing. Now, had the title Vice President for Community Programs and Events been in place then, or is that one that's evolved?
Oh, no, that's been a new title just in the past 7 years or so. I've had a lot of different titles. They were big on titles. I was manager of a department of information services, which really handled the mail in the mailroom at that time. And then I was moved up to community programs, community affairs, I believe was the name of it. And then it evolved into different titles throughout the years. I started supervising the visitor centers, and it was tourism division at that time, and then later changed to the community programs and events.
Great. And your responsibilities and the role of Vice President of Community Programs and Events primarily focuses on
the Sun Fun Festival, Canadian American Days Festival, the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo, our winter promotion, Merrily Myrtle, a holiday celebration, Wednesday Welcome, which is a hospitality training program for frontline employees, and we also keep up with the Civic and Service Organization brochure and Horry County festivals and events tournaments. And so that's just kind of a thumbnail sketch of some of the things that we do.
You are slammed year-round, Marilyn.
Right. It's busy the last 6 months because we're planning for the first 6 months of the year, and then the first 6 months we're very busy and stressful.
Golly, absolutely. It's amazing when you think about all those activities. Will the Chamber have a team in the October 11th Heart Walk?
Most definitely, and I understand that right now we have close to 40 people signed up, friends and family of Chamber staff, and of course, including the Chamber staff. So we're going to have a big team out there. Team Ashby is our team. Team Ashby. That's wonderful, Marilyn. You know, I think Brad was with us when we were out at Santee Cooper in June.
And he made a point, which I hadn't thought about making sure to communicate throughout the state and throughout the region with other chambers of commerce to give them the opportunity to participate in this year's Heart Walk, because Ashby Ward had such an impact not only on the greater Myrtle Beach area, but throughout the Southeast, if not on the country.
You're correct on that. He was very involved in organizations throughout the United States, very big in the tourism industry. And he was one of the first people that people called when they wanted to run by an idea about tourism. So, and our staff is our communications division has been doing a good job getting the word out, and hopefully we'll have a lot of other chambers involved in it.
Marilyn, how do you think the staff is benefiting from their activities, the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce staff benefiting from the activities revolving around the upcoming Heart Walk?
Well, we all love Mr. Ward and enjoyed working for him, and I think it's given us all an opportunity to work together and enjoy each other in some social activities. And fun, but also benefiting for a great organization. So I think everyone's really getting a lot of good, warm, fuzzy feelings from it.
And why do you think, Marilyn, that support for the Heart Walk is an appropriate tribute to Ashby Ward?
I was talking to Mrs. Ward, and she shared some ideas with me. You know, their granddaughter was born with a hole in her heart, and they, for a year, they were just really, really worried that she was going to have surgery. But thank God she's going to be okay. She doesn't have to have surgery. Right now things are going along really well. Mr. Ward's father died basically the same way. He sat down to read a newspaper and had a heart attack. His mother died of heart disease. His sister had a heart attack. I believe it was the night of the viewing when Mr. Ward passed away. So it's a lot of family people that have had this disease. And even in our own volunteer groups, there's 3 or 4 of our key chairmen just in my division that one just had open heart surgery, well, had a bypass surgery, triple bypass, about 2 months ago. One had 3 stents put in, I believe it was in June. Another one had a heart attack 2 years ago and is still doing therapy. Another one, their daughter was born with some heart disease, and so they benefited from the research. So we're really pleased to be able to be a part of this.
Marilyn, for viewers in the PD or in southeastern North Carolina or newcomers to the area, folks who didn't grow up watching TV 13 and Ashby's World, or the name of the show, it slips me right now.
Captain Ashby.
Captain Ashby, thank you. How would you describe Ashby Ward and the contributions he made to our community?
Oh, they're too numerous really to mention all. Captain Ashby was a show that he did way back before he ever started working for the chamber. And matter of fact, a lawyer from North Carolina just told me last week, he said, I was on the Captain Ashby show for my 5th birthday. So it's still coming back. But he was a great communicator, as you well know. He knew how to kind of soothe things, but he knew how to communicate things. He was, one of the authors, and one of the major authors of the A-tax law that was passed. He just had so many contributions to the roads and to the economy of not just the Grand Strand, but for South Carolina. And from the governor on down, called him on basically a daily, weekly time to share ideas or to pick his brain about his idea of how things should run. So he had a great influence, as I said, in not just our immediate community, but in the state, and was very, very much respected for that.
Marilyn, we just have a couple of minutes. Do you have a particular memory or favorite story to share with the viewers about Ashby Ward?
Oh, goodness, they're too numerous again to mention, but one of the things that I really never really thought too much about when I was talking to Mrs. Ward was that he loved to write, and that he did write several stories, and he got a couple published, and she said for just a little bit of money. But he used to love to write, and he didn't get a chance to do that as much in the later years. But he also wrote a poem to his mother-in-law. So I thought, well, she must really be special if you wrote a poem to your mother-in-law.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's just things like that most people don't really know about.
That is amazing. And I know you're here obviously following in with Graham Edwards today, focusing on the upcoming walk and so many activities that are revolving around the walk, what they call wraparound activities. You all have had quite a few already, but there's another one coming up on September 20th. The
Queens for Hearts mini golf challenge. We're real excited about it. I got the idea because so many of the past queens called after Mr. Ward passed away, expressing their sympathy and wanting to write to Mrs. Ward. And also Rhett Sansbury at Jungle Lagoon had approached me several years ago about doing a mini golf tournament with our queens, and we just never had time to do it during the Sun Fun Festival. So I talked to Rhett about doing this, and he was really excited about it because he wanted to do something for Mr. Ward. And we thought it would be fun to get the media and the queens and other community interested people involved. So we're going to have this on September the 20th. There's $25 to sponsor a hole or $25 to play, and that will include barbecue lunch afterwards. We'll give trophies to the highest team score, which is really the worst one.
Yeah, right.
And the lowest team score, the lowest female, the lowest male score, and the most hole-in-ones. I believe those are some of the awards that we'll be giving out. So we've been getting a lot of things in as far as gifts and so forth. But if you'd like to play or participate in any way, call me at 916-7213 and we'll get you an application. We have about 33 players signed up so far, and I have about 25 holes sponsored. My goal is to get 36 holes sponsored and 72 players.
Great, absolutely. You heard her say it. You got 10 days. Call 843-916-7213. Marilyn Chewning will get you in either as a player or a hole sponsor. It's going to be a big day, September 20th, Jungle Lagoon, 9 a.m. to noon. Marilyn, thanks so much for being with us this morning and supporting the American Heart Association.
My pleasure. We're glad to do it.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Graham Edwards, the co-chairman of the 12th Annual American Heart Walk in memory of Ashby Ward, and Marilyn Chewning, a friend and loved one of Ashby Ward, for committing so much to the community and making today's Carolina People so special.